Hi, and welcome again to the Intro to Python Skills for AI. For those of you who are joining in for the first time, my name is Adesh Shah, and today we are going to learn how to make our bot intelligent using a Python library. We will cover multiple different libraries, we will write different functions, and we will also integrate a Python library known as Markov into our Python code. Now, before we jump into any code, let us take a moment and see what our final product will look like and what are we going to build today. So if you go to my browser here, I'm going to go to my browser here, and as you can see, so we are going to incorporate uh, the Markov file library into a chatbot so that instead of responding with a tweet, our app will respond with a message that sounds like something your celebrity might say. So how does it work? Now, so in our first box, in our first box, we have a text field, which handles the Twitter name, which is Venicity Reynolds from Deadpool. And in a text field two, we're going to type a message, and we're going to write, "Hey Ryan, how it goes." Now the Twitter user and that message has been sent to the app. Now the app uses the Twitter API to scrape up to 10,000 tweets from that person. Now this app uses a Python library called Flask to handle the request and the response. And the app uses scraping and text formatting techniques to clean the tweets and pass to a library called Markov so that we can get inert AI responses. Now, as you can see, Ryan Vencity Reynolds respond that love discovered by Adesh. Thank you. This is my all-time favorite film I've ever done. Not I was thinking of. What? I'm going to write what? What? Not anymore. There we go. Here we are friends again. So you get my idea, right? Like this is what we're going to build today. Now, so the part of coding programming is learning how all the different tools work and how they work together. And I know you can do it. So let's begin. So how are we going to build it? So there are lot of tools that can make coding easier. However, we are still going to stick with Python, Glitch, and Flask. And today we'll be adding Markovify library on top of it. Now, Markovify is a Python library that generates Markov chains. We'll learn about Markov chains later, but for now, all we need to know is that Markov chain is what generates the AI responses from your Twitter celebrity. Now, what exactly is a Markov chain? Now, in artificial intelligence, there are many different models. However, and in math, and I'm sure in math you have seen different kind of models. Now, some graphs that you have worked with are linear, straight lines, and some are quadratic, parabolas, etc. Now, a Markov chain is a complex model that is used to predict values in the future based on a given data set. And I will show you an example how it is done. And we are going to use this model to generate AI responses in our app. Now, the critical term over here model is a mathematical way to predict future values. Now, let's go through a simple example of Markov chain. Now, let's say you want to be able to guess the weather tomorrow. If the weather tomorrow will be sunny or cloudy. Now you look back through the weather reports from the last year and write down whether every day was sunny or cloudy. You do some math and you learn from that over the last year if any day was cloudy, 25% of the time the next day was sunny and 75% of the time the next day was cloudy. So let's test this out by ourselves. So in total, there are 8 days that come after cloudy days. So how many of those days are cloudy and how many are sunny? I'm going to give you 60 seconds to resolve this challenge. So if you have figured it out, make sure you enter your answers in the chat and I'll see you after 60 seconds. Okay, so welcome from the challenge. So, 6 of the days after cloudy days are also cloudy, and 2 of the days after the cloudy days are sunny. So, 2 sunny days by 8 days after the cloudy days is equal to 25%, and 6 cloudy days by 8 days after the cloudy days is equal to 75%. We did it correctly. We did it correctly. So you look through weather reports from the last year, but what the weather is actually way more complicated than just a cloudy or sunny, right? Imagine we added a partially cloudy and rainy. Now you'd have 4 different types of weather to keep track of. Calculating that by hand would be a nightmare. Therefore, we have Markov chain library and Markov 5, which is a simple Markov chain generator. So in our example, we are using Markov chains to analyze weather, sunny or cloudy, or you can use this for anything you can count. We'll use Markov to predict what words come after other words based on a person's tweet. So what is Markov 5? Now Markov 5 is a Python library written and maintained by GitHub user JSWine. Now Markov 5 can be added to any Python project. Markov 5 takes a large amount of input of text and runs the same sort of calculations on it that we learned in the last few slides. Markov 5 calculates how often one word appears after the next in the next text input. Simply put, it makes a list of each word in the text and then it makes a list of what words come next and how many times each pattern repeats, like we did with the clouds. It uses those percentage to generate fake sentences on how likely one word is to follow another. It is not perfect, and that's why our app has some strange output sometimes. But the more data you have, the better the prediction, and that's the number one law of machine learning. So let's get started. So last week we learned about regular expressions, a programming concept used to work with text. It is a basic introduction to data cleaning. However, we got a great response on doing a pandas workshop, and we are going to do a pandas workshop in the future too. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Imports is using data or function from other sources. So we'll import Markov 5 into our Python code. So that's importing Python. And the best way to learn to code is to code and not read about it. So let's dive in. So let's go to glitch.com, navigate to the URL above, navigate to the glitch.com, click sign in or choose how you want to log in. I'm going to give you 60 seconds to do it, and I'll see you once you have signed in. Alright, so once you have signed in, the next step is to get the code. Go to the URL, which is in the description below. Make sure you remix your own so that you can have a copy of the code into your account and you can play around with it after this workshop. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds to get the code, and I will see you after 60 seconds. Okay, so the next step is to explore the project structure on what exactly the project structure contains. But before we do that, we need to add some environmental variables into our .env file. So open up .env file and you're going to add this all this information. All this information is in the description below, so you can easily copy and paste, or even I'll post it in the chat so you can copy and paste from the chat. Now, what is env file? So env file is actually a simple configuration text file that is used to define some variables you want to pass into your application's environment, like authentication token or secret token key, which you don't want other public user to see. So that's the use of env file. Now let's explore the file. So there are these are the files we are going to work on, but moreover we'll be focusing on markov.py and mls twitter api py. Now mls twitter api.py is the file that allows us to use Twitter API to return way more tweets than we've returned in the past. We'll learn why this matters in the later workshop. Markov.py is the file where we'll write the code to use the Markov file library to create bot responses. So that's what our project structure will look like. Everything remains the same as last time. And let's open up Markov.py. Okay, and the first number one challenge is how to import a Markov file library. And that's the challenge for you guys, that how you can import Markov file library into the line one. And then we'll work on two functions. We'll write this function and this one too. So we have two functions to work on, and we'll do it. And this is the hardest part of the whole series, but I know we can do it. So let's begin. But so let's begin. All right. So let's go to function one. So we have to generate a bot answer with text model, and that takes three parameters: Twitter handle, user question, and text model. Now I'm going to do something different here. First, I'm going to write a pseudocode that what this function actually needs to be done, and then we'll write some code. Okay. Now, just out of curiosity, how many people out here have written a pseudocode? Write your response in the chat, and I would love to know what you think about pseudocoding. I love pseudocoding, by the way. All right, so but before that, let's import Markov file library. So challenge for you guys, how to import Markov file library into line one. And I'm going to give you 60 seconds to do that. All right. To import Markov file library, it's quite simple because I have already given kind of a solution in the challenge itself. So how to import Markov files, that was the solution right in front of our eyes. So I'm going to copy and paste because I'm lazy programmer. So that's the solution. Import Markov file. Simple. We have imported Markov file library. Oh, on a side note, while I was writing this code, I came across this fantastic library named Profanity. Now, Profanity is a blazingly fast cleaning swear words library. So what this library basically do is it will clean out all the tweets that contains the swear words. That's fantastic for this chatbot because we don't want any vulgar responses in our chat. So if you want to read more about profanity library, the link is in the description below. So you can go ahead and feel free to check after this workshop. All right, so let's begin with our function here. And we are going to do pseudo coding first, and then we'll write some code. All right, so the first step we are going to do is we are going to create a variable called bot answer, and we will set its value to none. The next step we will look into after this, we'll use the split method into a user questions input. Split the user questions input into a list of words. So what I mean by this is, so let's say a user enters, "Hey Adesh, nice workshop." So what we'll do, we'll use a split method and we'll make it into a list with each word here. So hey Adesh and nice workshop. You get the idea, right? All right. Moving on, we'll then retrieve one word from that list. We'll then retrieve one word from that list. Okay. And step 4, which is the critical step, because then in the step 4 we are actually calling the Markov file library into our step 4, because we are passing the words into the Markov file library. So pass that word into the make sentence which dot function from Markov file. We're gonna call that function on the text model. We are going to call that function onto the text model input. Yep. And then save it. Save the results. Yeah, that's the correct form. Save the result to bot answer. All right. So that's our 4th step. But hey, we forgot to call the function. So our final step will be return. Oh, no, sorry, not call, but return the bot answer. Return bot answer. So we have 5 steps to write the code, and now let's begin to write some code. All right, so the step 1 is to create a bot and set its value to none. So bot answer to none. Okay. Then we want to split the user question into an input a list of words. So for this, I'm going to do a for loop because it can be multiple input and it's more efficient and more modular. So for, and we have learned how to use for loop, so why not? So for word in user question split method, we're going to call split method, and then we're going to try bot answer is equal to text model. We're going to call our Markov file library So we retrieve one word. This is why we have for loop also, because we are killing two birds with one stone, if you want to put it that way. So try bot answer is equal to text model. We're going to call the method from Markov file library, make sentence. Oops, sorry. Make sentence with start. And then I'm gonna call word, our word, which we have created a for loop. We're going to do strict is equal to false. Do not worry about all this thing. I'll explain much more in detail once we have finished writing this function. And then we have max word. We just want to make sure our word is in the limit of 50 characters, not more than 50 characters. And config, call the method from my config.py file. Response or 50. Then we are going to accept break. All right, so we have written our first thing. Now if bot answer is not equal to none, we want to break it also. Break and move to next line. Break and move to next line. Okay, so we have done this two functions. Now we want to make sure we are right in indentation. Okay, so if this is the for loop is the main complex thing, but don't worry, I'll explain it to you once we finished writing this function. So if bot answer is equal to none, bot answer is equal to text model, make sentence, and we're going to do test output is equal to false. And then the final step is to return our bot answer. So return bot answer, but we also want to do some try and error. So if this, then if indentation again. So if bot answer is not equal to none, else we're going to call our function. So I'm very lazy programmer, so I'm just gonna go copy my function name with the parameters and paste it right with my else right here. There we go. All right. So, wow. So what did we just do? All right. So let me take a moment and explain it to you. So we used a function from Markov file called make sentence with start and called it on text model. So we called it on a text model like this. The text model is the output of feeding our celebrities' tweets into Markov file. Again, text model is the output of feeding our celebrities' tweet into Markov file library. Now we are asking Markov file to create a sentence, and we want it to base that sentence on a random word from the user's question. You get my idea? It's really complicated at first, but if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask me in the chat. And also, I'll send out the PowerPoint. I'll send out all the description, PowerPoint slides, this solution to you after this workshop. So don't worry. And if you have any questions, feel free to write in the comments and I will answer as soon as I can. Now let's try it out. Let's see if this works. So let's preview our app. So to preview our app, go to left hand corner of your browser and click show. I usually prefer having it next to the code so that it's easy for me to debug. So next to the code, but you can prefer choosing on a new browser also. It's taking some time to load because it's running the code. But now one key thing to remember is we already see there's an error here. And I guess we are going to solve that error one by one. That's why I think it's taking too much time to load. Okay, so I'm gonna close it and I'm gonna see what the error is. Now to check the error, we want to investigate. So if go to tools and if you see logs is where you'll see all your errors, like log, like what's going on in your code, why it's not running. So let's click on log and okay, so here we have an error. File main.py line 8, that's not the problem. Jump to Markov file line 57, except syntax error, invalid syntax. All right, what's going on? Line 57 and okay, I know what happened. Oh, I think we have an indentation error. So Python is very particular with indentation. So always make sure you check your indentation in Python. And that's something I really hate about Python because of the indentation. So yeah, I think now we should be good to go. Break. Okay. I think that error should be gone now. Yep. So okay, so we don't have any more error. So let's go ahead and check our app. So show preview your app next to the code. All right, here we have the app running. Now let's hit some message like hi. Oops, we are missing again. Okay, so let's investigate. Now, one thing to remember, so when you have bugs in your program, you can investigate by adding a print statements. This is like a best solution. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a print statement to see if this function is actually working or no. So print in a quotation string. So I'm gonna do print me if this function runs. Okay. We have, let's refresh our app. Let's go to our logs to see the print statement. And if we go to our logs, nope, we don't see the print statement. Okay, so I think something is going on. Okay, so we don't see a print statement. That means our app is not running. But do you know why? I know why, but do you know why? I'm gonna give you 60 seconds to figure it out and let me know in the chat that why do you think this function is not working? All right, the reason why our function didn't work is because we wrote the function, but we never called it. So let's go ahead and fix that right now. So notice that around line 74, it says that we need to use Markov file library to do this step. Now, we don't see anywhere that we have used Markov file library, right? So let's consult the documentation from the Markov file library. Now, this is the basic usage documentation from Markovify. Remember, we use Markovify to generate a Markov chain model. Now, a challenge for you guys is which line of code do you think is doing that? I'm going to give you 60 seconds and let me know in the chat that which line of code do you think is doing that. There you go. That's the one. Text model is equal to Markovify text, and we're passing text, a variable text. So that's the one we are going to use it in our function. So let's go back to our code. Let's get rid of the pass over here. Pass is just like a placeholder if there's nothing in the function. So we don't have any errors. So as you can see, if as soon as I removed my pass, I get an error message over here. So like a placeholder so that we don't get an error message in our function. So let's do tweets. Let's create a variable tweets. And we are going to scrape Twitter handle. If you remember, this is coming from our last week workshop scrape. So we have scraped the Twitter data, and now I'm going to write if-else statement. So if config, this is coming from my config file and my environmental variables. Scraper. Oh, sorry. If config.twitter fetcher is equal to scraper, else fetch Twitter handle. Now remind me to come to you and explain why I have used fetch over here rather than get tweets from our previous function which we wrote in last workshop. So I'll put a reminder for myself, like explain why we use fetch instead of what we have covered last week. Now we're going to use the Markovify thing. So for text, we have text model coming from that previous function is equal to Markovify dot text, a method. I'm calling a text method, and I'm passing clean tweets data, and that has a parameter of tweets, which is from here, which is I'm fetching from here, and I'm storing the new fetch data into tweets, and then I'm passing it into clean tweets data function, which we created last week, which over here, clean tweets data, and that is passing that up. And the last step is to return the function. So now we are going to return this function. So that's what we are calling. So I'm just going to copy and paste this function right over here. All right. Okay, great. Now we have written our two new functions. Let's try it out. Let's go ahead and check the logs if we can see our print statement for our first function we wrote. So tools, logs, and let's scroll clear, and I'm going to refresh this. And no, we did not return our function. And the reason why is because we still have to do some work in main.py. Yes, because in the main.py we are calling clean tweets. However, we have created a different Markov.py to generate an AI response. So we need to change the bot answer for that. So first of all, we need to import the library. So let's go ahead and import Markov.py. So from Markov, import all. Okay, so the first step has been done. We have successfully imported Markov.py into main.py. Now let's scroll down to line 27, comment line 27, because we are not using the clean tweets anymore. we are using generate bot answer. So I'm going to delete this thing, and we are going to call our last function which we created. So generate bot answer, and we are going to pass our parameter Twitter handle to capture the handle of the user and what is the question, and then we will pass it to other function. And now let's go ahead and check our logs. So we check our logs, and let's see, let's type something out and let's see if the function works. Hi, there we go. All right, this is fantastic. Our function works now. So as you can see, we have a print, we have successfully printed our print statement. So this is great. Now let's go ahead and talk to Wenzel Reynolds. Let's see what he has to say about this. Did you enjoy my workshop? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks. Thanks. So this is just Ryan messing with me. But all right, this is great. This is fantastic. So we have successfully created a pod. Now, coming back to why we used fetch in our generate bot answer. Now, the reason why we use fetch is because with the old standard method, we were only able to scrape a limited amount of data. However, with the fetch, we can scrape tons and tons of Twitter data. So this will improve our prediction in our prediction in the bot answer. And that's exactly what we need for AI, right? So more data you have, the better. That's why the reason why we use is fetch, because fetch will get tons of data. If you want to learn more about fetch, the link is in the description. After this workshop, go ahead and try it out. So enjoy. So this is our final thing. Enjoy. I hope you enjoy your AI powered Twitter conversation. If you do, please let me know in the chat or in the comments, or you can always reach out to me on my Twitter. And the final step before I conclude this presentation, where to go from here. So take course on Code Academy or Udacity. Try out Code Wars. I am on the Code Wars. So if you want to have a competition with me, I'll be happy to do it. Stay tuned for more opportunities from Data Analytics Center. And if you did enjoy this content, if you did enjoy this workshop, please hit like and subscribe, and the bell icon for new updates. We are planning to do new workshops on machine learning, AI, big data, Python, pandas. We want to empower students, and that's why I'm here. I hope you really enjoyed this workshop. And once again, thank you for watching.